Here, and today we're going to be talking about how to confidently ask for higher prices as a life coach so that you don't have to have shame or fear. So, look, I just spent several days working with a group of women who were struggling to show up as coaches. And I'm putting together my visible coach retreat. And so I'm really looking deeply at what's the problem? Why are we afraid to be seen? And how are we holding ourselves back? So I've got 5 key areas that I want to share with you. Now, I'm looking at this like there are 5 dimensions that you have to show up as a coach. Now, the first dimension is about yourself. You have to show up for yourself as a coach. The second dimension is around your offerings. This is what you're going to actually be putting out as a coach, how you're going to help people. The third dimension is your platform. So, where are you going to show up? Are you going to be on Facebook? Are you going to be on Instagram? The fourth dimension is your strategy. So, how are you going to put all this together? How are you going to put yourself out there? And what exactly are you going to do to bring clients in so that you actually can be doing your work? And then the fifth dimension is the dimension of your craft, meaning, like, how is it that you need to show up for your clients while you're in session? So if you're teaching in a group, or if you have private one-to-one sessions, how is it that you're going to show up to hold space? So we're going to take a deep dive into these concepts when we are in the Visible Coach Retreat. But for right now, I want to tell you a little bit about each dimension. And I want you to ask yourself, am I actually showing up for myself and for my clients? Am I showing up in my coaching business the right way? So, the first dimension is about the coach's self. In this dimension, you have to show up for yourself. You have to show up to understand your own trauma and the role that your trauma plays in your coaching business. So, this might involve developing your education around the pain that you suffer so that you can bring your knowledge and your wisdom to the people that you want to help. All right. So, that's the first dimension, the dimension of the coach's self. Now, what are some of the challenges that you might be experiencing? Well, maybe you're avoiding your own painful experiences rather than facing them head on. So, in other words, maybe you're doing some spiritual bypassing. Maybe you are not looking at yourself. Maybe you're not doing your own work. You're trying to cure other people, but you're not trying to work on yourself. This is an issue, my friend. If you are hiding from your own pain, if you're neglecting your own trauma, if you're neglecting your own inner child, your own wounds, you're not doing the work. And it's going to make you not want to show up for your own business because you're an imposter. You are an imposter if you are not doing your own work. You're not an imposter if you're not perfect. You're an imposter if you are not doing your own work. Okay. We don't need you to be perfect. We need you, though, to be looking at yourself and to be taking responsibility for your own wounds. All right. So, this first dimension of showing up for yourself is very much about being there and looking at what is going on inside of you so that you can actually work on yourself. Now, dimension 2 is about the thing that you offer. So, this is how you have to show up for your own philosophy. You have to develop your method. You have to publish your work. It doesn't have to be published with a university. It can be just published on your blog. It can be published in your workbooks, right? You can create You can create cheat sheets, just like I do when we're doing a live stream here. We'll create a cheat sheet. Creating a cheat sheet is a form of publishing. So I want you to ask yourself, and actually I would love it if you would put in the comments where you find yourself showing up or where you find that you might be struggling. So this second dimension is where you maybe struggle to articulate your personal philosophy and to put it out in the world, right? So maybe you have some doubt about the insight that you bring. Maybe you're like, well, I just want to coach people. I don't really have anything interesting to say. Well, people will want you to coach them if they know what you are thinking in your head. So you have to put your philosophy out there, even if it's not like an elaborate, sophisticated philosophy. Maybe your philosophy is one of peace. Maybe your philosophy is one really focusing and doing deep work, doing deep healing. Well, you have to write about that. It's not enough to just be like, oh, I'm a healer, woo, 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 I do this thing, I do this magic, but you don't bother to help people understand how the magic works. Okay. Another thing that might fall under here is you might have trouble identifying what your specific niche is, right? So your niche comes out of your philosophy. So right now, the philosophy that I'm sharing with you is my philosophy about what it means to show up. This is my visibility philosophy. And the niche is um, I work with women who are having difficulty showing up for their business, whether they are having trouble being seen or whether they're having trouble getting the word out. It all comes down to the same thing. And that's what I'm sharing with you in my philosophy. Now, if you're not doing the work to create material like this, then you're not really doing the work. But this shows you where you need to do the work. So don't despair, just get to work. All right. So the third dimension is the coach's platforms. So this is the place where you share your offerings. So can be like your learning hub, your community, your blog, your website, your social media platforms. Like if you're watching this video, you are seeing me on one of my platforms. All right. So what are some of the challenges that show up for you? In the comments, please write down any challenges you have around um, your platforms. Many coaches struggle to identify which platforms they should be on. Like, dependent, because the platforms are all different. Just because everybody else is on TikTok doesn't mean that you belong on TikTok. If your clients are not on TikTok, you don't belong on TikTok. You don't need to put time there. If all your clients are on LinkedIn, then what are you doing on Facebook? So understanding where your energy is best spent, that is a process that you have to discover. You have to do the work to discover that. If you're not doing the work, you're going to have a hard time showing up. You're going to have a really difficult time getting seen because you're not in the right place. Also, understand that maybe you will struggle knowing how to use whatever platform you've chosen. So, what's the best way to use LinkedIn? What's the best way to use Facebook? Do I place ads? Do I post every day? Do I do live streams? How do I do it? All the different things. That can be coming up for you. I find it to be amazing because there are so many different options and everybody's got their opinion about what's the right way. And people are looking, they're going, oh, how many likes do you have? How many comments do you have? I'm always looking. I'm like, how much money do you have in the bank? Because I don't care how many likes you have. I want to know how much money you are earning from all those likes. Are people actually investing in you? You might be surprised to find that just because you have a lot of likes does not mean you have a lot of money. So this is something we have to talk about as a part of the process. Now, look, in the Visible Coach Retreat, we are going to take a deep dive into these issues. This is what we do on the entire first day. It's going to be all about diving into these different dimensions of being a life coach. And it's going to be about looking at the challenges that you have as an individual. The reason I wanted to do this retreat is because I wanted to spend time with people working intimately. I wanted to be able to listen and I wanted to be able to give you really, really, really good feedback on what I am hearing as your coach and also as your guide. As someone who's been doing this for over 12 years, I've got a lot of experience and it's an honor to be able to work with you in this way. So this is what the retreat is going to be about. At least day one, we're going to cover a lot of fun stuff in the retreat, but day one is going to be about understanding those blockages that are holding you back from being your best self. Because a lot of you have so much to offer, but you have no idea of how to get yourself out there. And it's not about getting yourself out there once and getting lucky. It's about putting yourself out there every single week or every day, depending on what you're doing and what your strategy is. But some of you don't even know where to begin to build that strategy. And actually, that's dimension number 4, the coach's strategy. This is a huge visibility for people, a visibility issue for people, because the strategy is where you're going to build your business plan. So there are many different ways to go about doing a business plan, but I like to teach my students how to do it in the most simple way. And many coaches, though, are very, very resistant to it because they feel really overwhelmed by the idea of creating a business plan on any scale. So it's like if they do a 5-year plan, they freak out. If you ask them to do a 1-year plan, they freak out. It's just they have an issue around business and they don't see themselves as a business person. This is a huge thing that holds especially women back and especially spiritual women. So a lot of people are also really resistant to making plans or goals for the future, right? They figure like, well, I don't know what my business is going to do and they don't know how to project. This is a huge issue because if you don't make some assumptions and just go for it, you have no idea of where to go. So this business plan and the strategy is a huge part of being able to show up as a life coach. Now, the 5th dimension is actually probably the easiest dimension. It's the dimension where most people feel very, very comfortable, and that is the dimension of the coach's craft. So that's your job as a healer and transformer. That's your job. It's your craft. So this is about how you show up to your sessions, how you show up to your classes, how you show up to events, and showing up in your power. So it's about being a great coach, but it's also about being a great listener and a great leader and about being an expert. So this can include how you hold space. A couple of weeks ago, I did a class called How to Hold Space as a Spiritual Life Coach. That was really fun, but that's where we understood that, we're very, very empathic, and it's challenging because we can tend to take on everybody's issues, so it becomes a problem. Like this thing that should be a joy for us becomes burdensome when we're taking on the energy of the people that we're trying to help and we're letting them bring us down. So that's one of the challenges, right? So it's your job as the coach to, yes, be able to take care of the people that you're serving, but it's also your job to be able to take care of yourself. So a lot of coaches really struggle with being able to be a channel for the divine, but also being able to bring that knowledge in to their clients to actually be able to use the knowledge. That's what makes us different than healers. A healer can bring in the energy of the divine and they can spread that energy, and that's wonderful. But as a coach, your job is to actually help people integrate that energy. Personally, I love love that because that's why I became a coach. I became a coach because I saw people, they would get their messages, but they had no idea of what to do with it. And it's not just like, oh, you let spirit do it for them. Yes, you do that to a degree, but they need help because spirit helps those who help themselves. So you have to be able to help them help themselves. That's what a coach does. So this is a big part of the visibility issue around this fifth dimension. Now, I think it's also an issue because sometimes we don't want to step into the role as that big badass life coach because we're afraid that we don't really have the authority or the experience. So we kind of are taking it slow. This is very, very common in new coaches, which I totally understand. You want to be humble, but you kind of don't want to play it small. So it's a balancing act so that you're not just holding back and you're also not being arrogant. But there's a way to do that. And if you're working through all the other dimensions, the previous four dimensions, you will know exactly how to show up because the other four dimensions are about doing the work to help you show up. All right. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what my philosophy is around being a life coach. And I remember starting out as a coach, and today's session is really about like how to set your prices. But if you are not doing the work to make yourself visible, you're not going to be able to set a higher price because you're not going to feel like you're in integrity with a higher price. Why? Because you're not doing the work. You're not showing up for your coaching business on all those levels. We really need for everything to be firing off and working. They don't need to be perfect, but they do need to be working together. You need to be working on yourself. You need to be thinking about your platforms. You need to be thinking about your offerings. You need to be thinking about your strategy. You need to be thinking about your craft. You have to do all these things, and you need to do them in a way that feels loving and expansive so that you can feel like you're growing. You can feel like you're evolving from where you are, right? If you're new, then you're new. That's great. But you want to feel like you can evolve, and you do have to be working on all these things at the same time. Not every day, okay? So maybe you're going to do, maybe on Mondays you write out your blogs for the week, and maybe on Tuesdays you do a live stream, and maybe on Wednesdays you really focus on social media. Maybe on Thursdays you work on your deliverables, and then on Fridays you're working on yourself. However you want to do it. It can really be that graceful. The key is just to be really, really consistent. All right. So if you have not yet signed up for the Visible Coach Retreat, go ahead and do that now. And today I'm going to be sharing with you my 5-step formula for breaking through the low pricing barrier. All right. So let's get into that. So, what brought me to this today? Well, for many women, there's something very unsettling about putting a high ticket price on your coaching. Maybe you're comfortable charging $100, but when it comes up to $500 or $2,000 or $5,000, you start to get very resistant. All right. I totally understand. I went through that myself. Okay. I want you all to know, even though I'm really, really, really comfortable in my pricing right now, I did have to work to get here. And I'm taking you through the process of what I had to do. All right. So, one of the things is that you bring tremendous value to your clients. You've studied, and sometimes even in spite of that, even though you're asked, when it comes down to asking for more, it feels a little audacious. Like, who do I think I am to ask that, right? And it's not because you think you're worthless, and it's not because you don't believe in what you do, because you do. You know that your heart is pure, right? But I understand that you struggle when it comes down to uh, asking for money. Okay. And especially when it comes to asking for a big ticket price. Now, I want you to understand that you are not alone, but I do want you to understand that it's not like, oh, if I just felt worthy, then I'm going to feel good about charging a higher price. All right. It doesn't actually work that way. What I think is important is that you have to understand your role as a service provider. You have to understand the depth of what you bring, and you have to understand why that transformation, particularly your version, is inherently valuable. All right. Even if it's not tied to a financial return on your investment, you have to understand why what you do is so important. All right. Now, many spiritual life coaches, they're very, very compassionate. Even if you're not a spiritual life coach, but if you're you're just a woman, all right? You're tenderhearted, you're womanly, all right? I don't mean womanly like, oh, you're womanly. I mean, this is just how women are raised. Even still today, yes, we still have the same issue. And if you're in my age group, yes, you were raised this way. All right. You got into this work because you want to help people. And somewhere along the way, you thought that like your prices for helping people should be reasonable and affordable to everybody. All right. There's also a fear of being judged, okay? Especially, you say you're a life coach and people learn your prices. There's a fear that people are going to actually judge you. There's a fear of being criticized. There's a fear of being rejected. And there's even a fear of being bullied because you put a price on your coaching. And I've heard people all the time. People have tried to bully me. Okay, bully me. I'm so not bullyable. All right. But they used to try to tell me what to do, like, oh, you're spiritual. You shouldn't be charging this much. Don't even get me started because, like, I can charge whatever I want. I get to do whatever I want. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean that I can't, right? So, the thing that I want you to understand is that pricing is not the thing that determines your integrity. It's the work that you do that determines your integrity. So, your rate is just a reflection of your depth, your structure, and the expertise that you bring to the table. Now, I think it's important to also understand that money is deeply personal. Those people who were judging me about, um, charging for my spiritual life coaching, they weren't really attacking me. What they were doing was attacking a system that let them feel outside. They had a different life experience with money, and their attacks were really about them. That was never about me. Okay. So I think that's important for you to understand when anybody is criticizing you or they're, whatever, um, it's not really about you. It's about them. And you should let it be about them. Let them deal with their stuff. And you just be kind and use that as an affirmation that you um, are doing something right. One of my mentors, Rachel Rogers, used to say that if you didn't piss anybody off today, you didn't do your job. She also used to say, if wait, what did she used to say something like, if you don't, you're never going to make millions if you don't piss off the thousands, right? So you got to piss people off by the thousands. She said something like that. And basically the idea is that like in order to really bring in money, this is just purely energy. In order to allow money to come in, you cannot be like this, and you cannot be small, and you cannot be hidden. If you're small, hiding, and you're fearful of being criticized and you're tentative, what you're doing is telling the universe that you're more comfortable down here than you are up here, where you're open and receptive. And look, when you're open and receptive, this is a very vulnerable situation. This is a vulnerable state. So when you are hiding, when you're not doing your work, you are closed and the universe can't send you. And because when you're in this closed position, you're dodging the bullets of people who don't matter, okay? People who were never going to pay you. They were never going to pay you, okay? So you're down here and you're catering to that energy. So all of your energy is here. And this is what you're creating. So this is what's making you invisible. It's all the stuff that's going on a subconscious level that's making you hide. All right. So your your fear of being seen is not really about your work, right? It's really about you and your own expansion. If you ask for a higher price, all of a sudden, people are going to see your ambition. They are going to see that you want abundance, and they are going to see that you are not willing to be on the struggle bus with them. That can be really, really terrifying. I understand that, my friend. I want you to know that I get it. Now, when you ask for more, you're opening yourself up to criticism, okay? You're opening yourself up to be called out. You're opening yourself up to be ridiculed, to be misunderstood. And the temptation is to play small, to undercharge, and to hide. All right? And I don't want you to do that. If you allow yourself to be seen, not just in your coaching, but in your full power as a woman who wants wealth, freedom, and success, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to intimidate the hell out of some people. I'm the first to admit that. You're going to intimidate people. But you know what you're also going to do? You're going to call in people who love and respect that. So at the same time, there are going to be some people who are like, oh, they're going to talk about you. But then there are going to be all these people who are talking about you and talking you up instead of talking you down, right? So I want you to let yourself be seen in your worth. It's not enough just to believe in your value. You have to let yourself be seen claiming it. That means you're going to stand behind your prices without apologizing. Hey, I charge $20,000 to work with me. Yeah, I like that. Actually, that feels really good. That feels really good. That means you get to speak with confidence about what you charge and why. That means showing up in your marketing on video and conversations, fully owning that you are building a business that pays you well. And look, I do not mean to imply that you should be going around talking about money all the time. No, but when it comes time to talk about money, stop hiding, right? Share who you are. One of my colleagues, I'll call her a colleague, she's one of my teachers, really. Her name is Eleanor Strong, and she's wonderful. She just puts her prices out there, and yeah, it's $30,000 to work with me, and yes, I'll work with you for like 3 months or however she does her system. It's wonderful. And you know what? She's good at what she does. She's so good at what she does, she's developed a system. She deserves to get her money. I love that. I love that. And do you know what I learned by following her and investing in her? I learned how to do what she does. Okay? And now I get to own that. And then I get to pass it on to people like you. All right? So people might judge you, but hiding isn't going to protect you from criticism. All right? You just have to get comfortable with charging high ticket prices, and it's a process. So now, let me let me take a pause here and let me check on my notes so that I can get down to where we are because I went all off track. Hold on. Okay, hold on. All right. Let me see. Up, where are my five? Because I have 5 tips for you today. I think I have them written down here. Uh, uh-oh. Uh-oh. What happened to my 5 tips? Oh, here they are. I found them. Okay, got it, you guys. Sorry. All right. So these are my 5 tips for how you can get started claiming your riches and raising your price without feeling ashamed. Okay. Now, this first one is my favorite one because it's about being honest and it's about doing the work. Now, step one is to own the depth of your work. Take an honest inventory of how much you've invested in becoming the coach that you are, right? So look at how much you've invested. I don't invest less than $20,000 a year in a coaching in mentorship. I love working with a mentor. Why? Because I see a return on my investment. I see a return on my investment in how I feel. I see a return in my investment on what I give. I give more. I hold people at a higher standard. Why? Because my mentor charges me to work with her, right? Charges me a lot of money to work with her. She gives me back. And then I give to my people. I hold them at a higher level. I teach them what they need to know, right? So you need to look at yourself, look at your level of investment, and hold yourself to that. Now, if you are someone who is not willing to invest in your own transformation, well, there you go. You get to keep your prices in your comfort zone, understanding that um, you cannot give what you don't have. All right. In that case, I suggest you keep your prices in your comfort zone because that's what you are putting out there. All right. Now, number two, create a coaching experience that feels like a no-brainer. So the best way to really feel confident about charging more is to create an offer that feels undeniably valuable to both you and your client. So structure your coaching sessions in a way that gives your clients a real deep transformation, but also be smart. Value is not about you doing more. Value is about you being more. So take care of yourself and show up to your sessions and take care of yourself and show up to your coaching philosophy. Show up to those 5 dimensions of being a life coach. And if you're showing up with all pistons firing there, then you really do deserve a great price. Set your price high. But if you're showing up half-ass or you're hiding, eh, maybe this is a little bit too advanced for you. I don't know. You decide. Want to talk to me about it? Talk to me about it. All right, number 3, shift from charging for coaching to charging for transformation. So if you're someone who's and if you're coaching someone in their relationships or personal growth, like these things are not uh, quantifiable. Like you can't just put a number on that. But I'll tell you something. If you get divorced, if your client gets divorced, you can put a number on that. Their lawyer will put a number on that. All the all the dividing up of the assets, you can put a number on that. So maybe you can maybe you can put a number on your coaching when it means that you can that couple can stay together and not have to deal with the financial aspects of divorce, not to mention the emotional um, aspects of divorcing, right? And the thing that I want you to understand that when you're creating this kind of process where you're focusing on the transformation, it really is about understanding the work that has to go into doing the transformation, the work of breaking old patterns, the work of healing wounds. That's a lot of work. And, if I say I charge you $350 an hour and you're like, oh, that lady over there only charges $80 an hour, I know that I live where I live and she lives where she lives. And I know that what I give is worth blah, blah, blah. And she clearly thinks that what she's giving is only worth blah, blah, blah. Because when I tell you that I'm charging $350 an hour, it's because the transformation that I'm giving is worth $350 an hour. If I'm only charging $125, then I'm saying the transformation is worth $125. Anything I do, there's nothing I can do for you that's worth less than $350 for an hour of my time. Even if I sit down and read your tarot cards, you have the opportunity to walk out of there with a mind-blowing transformation, right? But if you're not willing to invest in it, maybe you're not willing to do the work that you need to do. I've had a lot of people who have had, like, I've given them gold from a tarot reading, and they've walked away from it like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, okay, go ahead. And then they come back and, are begging for it. But we are where we are. And our job as coaches is to be really, really clear about who we are and what we're offering. And then it's also our job to help people understand what we're bringing to the table, which is why in the visible coach retreat, we talk about, yeah, you have all this wonderful stuff to offer. What is it? We have to identify it. We have to lay it out. We have to lay it out in our program. We have to lay it out on our blog, on our posts, on our website, in the program itself, like in the modules and the lessons. How are we going to do that? That's a part of what we cover. It's very, very important. Number 4, normalizing receiving wealth for your work, meaning make it the normal thing in your mind. You don't have to normalize it with other people. You normalize it for yourself first. Understand, there's nothing wrong with being paid well for changing people's lives. There's nothing wrong with you having abundance, all right? The more resourced you are, the better coach you can become. Why? Because you can take more classes to learn more. You can go and have a wonderful retreat yourself. You can learn. You can get the education you need. You can learn new ideas. You can learn how to have a bigger impact, right? Money helps you to be able to do that. So make that your norm so that, yes, I receive wealth for my coaching because I use wealth. I love using wealth and I love spreading my wealth. One of the ways I spread my wealth is by being a great coach. Me offering this live stream right now. If you ain't getting nothing from this live stream, that's on you. I already know what I'm showing up with. I know what I do, right? I know that I know what I'm talking about. I get to see it in action. Not only have I lived it, but I also get to see it in action in with the people that I coach, my students, my clients. And what a blessing to be able to have the universe showing me showing me myself. Yes, it's wonderful. I recommend it for you. Now, the last tip here is to work with a mentor who has a roadmap. I'm a mentor. I have a roadmap. So if asking for higher prices is still feeling strange, don't try to figure it out alone. All right. Work with someone like me who has already built multiple high ticket offers and can help you create a pricing structure that feels both strategic and spiritually aligned. All right. You deserve to be paid well for your life's work. All right. There's nothing greedy. There's nothing selfish. There's nothing even audacious about charging premium prices for coaching. I know so many coaches who charge premium prices. They get paid the prices that they charge, and they are so humble and kind and generous and loving, and they give. I know so many wonderful coaches who are in integrity and they charge for their prices and for their services. And you know what? They make us all show up fully. I charge and I make my students show up fully. And you know what? They're doing it and they're appreciating it. So there you go. Now, I want to remind you to sign up for the Visible Coach Retreat. I am looking forward to seeing you, and I thank you so much for joining me. It's Crystal Lynn, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much, and see you the next time. Bye. Bye, everybody.